Welcome to Wrestling with Heart, a podcast looking at pro wrestlers giving back to their community. Join me, Stanley Carr, as I interview wrestling's hottest names who use their platforms as entertainers to raise awareness and do community service. Hello and welcome to another edition of Wrestling with Heart. This is the show where we talk with professional wrestlers and professional wrestling personalities about their lives in and outside of the ring, as well as doing acts of charity work, community service, volunteering, and spreading positivity. We're always about the positive vibes here on the show. And with me right now, I've got a very special guest, one of the most entertaining characters of all time. I'm talking about former WWE Intercontinental Champion, former United States Champion, former Tag Team Champion, currently working with TNA Wrestling as the Director of Authority. Pleased to welcome the one and only Santino Marella. Welcome, Santino, to Wrestling with Heart.
Oh, thank you. That was a very nice introduction. Thank you.
Yes. So talk to me about your childhood. Where are you from?
Yeah, 1974, born in Mississauga, Ontario. Mississauga is the suburb right beside Toronto. In fact, the Toronto airport is in Mississauga. And it was honestly a fantastic place to grow up. It was all a lot of first-generation Canadians. So a lot of our parents, especially my high school, very high percentage, if not 90%, of the students' parents immigrated to Canada. And it was a Catholic school, so it would have been countries, like Poland and Malta and Italy and Portugal, Croatia, a lot of the European countries that were Catholic. And it was awesome, man. It was just really, it was a great time. The population was just right, there was no internet, and growing up, it was a brand new neighborhood that my parents, they bought in the subdivision in 1982. We moved in, so we were like the first families on a beautiful street with like 20 houses on it, and we were outside all the time, down in the parks and the creeks and the forests, and we played a lot of ball hockey. Childhood was amazing, man. Back then, you could go on crazy adventures, and as long as you're home by the time the lights went on, you were good.
Oh man, so you seemed like you definitely had such an exciting childhood, getting to do so many different things. Um, was wrestling always something you enjoyed as a kid?
No, so it's interesting. I saw a Bruce Lee movie somewhere, and I saw some kung fu movies somewhere, and we used to watch pro wrestling, and I knew that I was some kind of an artist, and I knew that I wanted to be some kind of martial artist. So I remember just, asking my mom to put me in something, and she happened to pick judo. When you look in the parks and recreations pamphlets, there's karate, taekwondo, judo, and she didn't know the difference. I didn't know the difference, and she chose judo, and it ended up being like perfect for me. Grappling in general is I think the best thing to put your kids in. It develops confidence and strength and coordination, and the whole metaphor of falling down and getting back up. That is exactly what judo is. You're getting thrown and you're getting back up, and you're getting thrown and you're getting back up, and it's just a perfect martial art for life in general.
Yeah, it's definitely somebody that has taken karate classes and has been in martial arts for many years. I can definitely relate to that. Being able to put your body through so much, and it is good exercise, and teaches you a lot of life lessons as well, like you're talking about. Being disciplined and respect and humility, and getting able to work with instructors that really care about you and what your goals are. Definitely sets you up for success for sure.
Yeah, there's great people involved, the coaches, the volunteers. So, I live in the province of Ontario. So we would go to a lot of Judo Ontario tournaments, and I started when I was 9. So 9, right through university, I was a judo athlete. That was my identity, was just I was the judo guy. And when I look back, I'm like, man, those are some of the nicest people to be around and to grow up around. And I didn't know it at the time because I had nothing to compare it to. But yeah, the judo community is awesome.
I'm sure a lot of those techniques and moves helped prepare you to become a professional wrestler. Um, when did you kind of figure out I want to be in the industry?
Yeah, so I always had an interest, and after judo class, we'd always play around and like pretend we were professional wrestling. But because I did judo and judo's grappling, I also did amateur wrestling in high school and university, and I excelled because of the overlap. Throws and pins. It's grappling is grappling, right? Which any way you want to, whether it's sambo or jiu-jitsu or catch wrestling or judo, or it's all grappling. And in university, there was a guy on my team who's, to this day, one of my good friends. His father, who ended up being my first coach, was Don Kola. And he wrestled in the Calgary Stampede and WWF a little bit. And when I heard that his dad had like a school in Toronto, I was just like, oh my God, I think I just found my destiny. And, like, because that's the thing, you see it on TV, but how do you even think of getting there or doing that? So when I made that connection, I knew it was going to be a game changer with regards to my life.
Yeah, I mean, definitely a lot of that stuff, kind of goes hand in hand with the martial arts. Did you feel it was easy to make that transition? Did you feel like it was
Yeah, I mean,
harder?
I was very comfortable with falling because of all the throws in judo. I was very comfortable with just the moves in general. I actually had to um, slow down, because my judo throws are very explosive and very, very fast. So I had to slow them down a little bit. And so normally in judo, I'm used to throwing people when they're resisting, and now I'm learning to throw people when they're helping. So I really had to dial it down in terms of my throws. Um, but that wasn't yeah that didn't take too long.
Were there any pieces of advice that your trainers gave you that you apply to today with coaching at your school?
Yeah, so I had really a very eclectic group of coaches. So Don Koloff was my first coach. Yuki Ishikawa in Japan was my second coach, and then I had Rip Rogers was probably my most influential coach, and then Al Snow was one of my last coaches before getting to the WWE. And then when you get to the WWE, you have so many mentors. I would sit and talk to Arn Anderson all the time, Mike Rotunda, Fit Finley, Ricky Steamboat, Ric Flair, Sean. I mean, the list goes on and on. Triple H, and they would give you. They weren't coaching like because at this point you're already coached, but they'll give you little tweaks, little tidbits of advice just to make something a little bit better. And those small details, man, they go a long way.
Yeah, I mean, I find the backstory to your character to be so fascinating. You make your debut in Milan, Italy, as a fan, and Umaga is in the middle of the ring with Vince McMahon, basically having an open challenge for the IC Championship, the Intercontinental Championship,
Yeah.
and you get chosen to face him in the middle of the ring, and very few people that are watching the show do not have a clue that you're not actually Italian.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So I would drive in 2002. I worked downtown Toronto, so I would drive every day in traffic, and it was over an hour and a half, somewhere between there. And I listened to an audio tape of Italian while I was in traffic just to kill some time. And they called me and they said, hey, because I was in developmental already. I was already signed to the WWE, but in a developmental capacity. And Vince had this idea for someone to come out of the crowd in Italy. So they looked at the roster and they're like, is anybody Italian? And Mike Bucci, who was Nova from ECW, he was he was in talent relations and he knew me, so he knew that my real name was Anthony Corelli, which is very Italian. And so they called me and they're like, "Can you speak Italian?" So I just recited a few lines from the tape I would listen to in traffic, and it was enough to, get the opportunity and go to Italy and play this character. Also, like I mentioned earlier, because of all our parents were born in other countries, so I've always been around these accents, people that were, English wasn't their first language and they would say things a little off and say things in a funny way. So really growing up in that neighborhood, Mississauga, in the 80s and 90s, with all these European people, it really gave me tons of material with regards to building the character, and developing the character of Santino.
It's just so amazing how you're able to take that and really make it your own. That you were there for what, 8, 9 years?
10 years.
10 years. It's amazing. You had angles with Beth Phoenix, Maria, even getting to do that whole WrestleMania bit where you played your sister, Santina, in the battle. How did they come up with that? I mean, that's just
Yeah. So, you know, we were playing that, dominant, that like the dominant story. Like I was insecure and I wanted to show her that men are better. So I was going to dress up as a girl, sneak into the women's battle royal, win the battle royal, and then, say, haha, men are better athletes. And it was supposed to be a one off, to be honest. But it ended up being so funny. We did it for like 3 months, I believe.
it's crazy. I mean, we talk about some of the angles that would not fly today.
Right.
That was it's hilarious like looking back and watching that because you were doing some incredible character work, being able to pull that off. And so you win the Intercontinental Championship. You win the United States Championship. Describe the feeling, what goes through your mind.
Well, it's funny because, you know, it's not real competition with regards to the actual match themselves, but you are competing with the rest of the roster to be a champion and to be in a featured segment on the show, and to be a fan favorite. So when the company recognizes where you're at and gives you a title, it does satisfy that competitive part, because you're competing against everyone in the locker room wants to be a champion. So when you get it, you're winning that title, you know, not from the actual match itself, but from everything else outside, your work ethic, your relationship with the crowd, your attitude, how good you are as a wrestler, the general connection and popularity that you have, you know, that's, you have to work really hard to do all that stuff. So it's a great recognition when you get a title, for sure.
It definitely is. I mean, you were one of the final two men in the Royal Rumble in 2011. You even got a spot in the Elimination Chamber, which was incredible. Um, I gotta ask, I think one of the favorite things that you have done was create the Cobra move, signature move. How did that come about?
Oh man, when I was living in Japan in 2004, at the original Battle Arts, I believe one of the partners. So he was one of the partners of Battle Arts. Um, we were in a bar, we were having dinner, and he just showed me this funny thing he would do with his hand, where he'd like make it into this little puppet thing, and he'd make it, and it wasn't exactly like the Cobra, but he transformed it like that, and would do this. It was like a little, almost like a wooden puppet or something, and that was it. He showed me a couple times, and then I didn't even think about it for like 5 years. And then one time I was in a match, and I believe it was Atlanta, and it popped into my head, and I said, "Oh, I'm gonna try something." I was talking to John Cena. I said, "Watch my match. I'm gonna try something." So during the comeback, I was doing like punch, 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 and then I did this thing where I turned it and I hit him with it, and the audience laughed like right away. And normally they got to see it on TV a few times before they gotta get into it, but they loved it right away. So we knew we had a winner, and then before at first it was like a cobra, and the guy would turn, and I would do like a schoolboy. I think it was William Regal who like he bumped off it, and then that was the ended up being the finish. And I was only doing it on live events. I wasn't doing it on TV until, but every time you have a live event, the producer writes a report. And then Vince was reading the reports and he kept hearing this move, the Cobra, the Cobra. So we came to TV one day. And I remember, I think I was fighting Zack Ryder. And Ricky Steamboat was the producer. He's like, yeah, Vince wants to see the Cobra. And I'm like, how does he even know about the Cobra? And that's when he told me, he's like, he reads the reports. And I'm like, oh my God, okay. So we did the Cobra. And then within like a month's time, it was like already so popular. And which was crazy. It just spread like wildfire. And then after about a year, we added the sleeve or so. And then we had the Cobra as it is today. Yeah.
And it was able to catch on with so many people. People still, when you come out and compete, people still love seeing that move. It's just so iconic. Um,
Yeah. It's interesting too, because anybody can do it, right?
yeah, I mean, you were able to really make that your own thing, and how people still to this day, like when they see you, one of the first things they think of is the Cobra. I think that's
Right.
so cool. I want to switch gears now and talk about some of the stuff you've done outside of the ring. I know you've been involved with a lot of charity organizations and done charity work over the course of your career. What kinds of things have you done over the years to help out in your community?
And I worked with, Epilepsy Canada. When I was living in Florida, the Joshua House for kids that had to be taken out of the home. Of course, we always do, stuff with breast cancer awareness. Um, yeah, I mean, marginalized communities. We help teach them wrestling, and at Battle Arts Academy, we often have programs where we work with kids. Um, and then I just do charity events. If somebody invites me to do a charity event, but that's about it with regards to that. Um, I kind of just do our own stuff in the community, to be honest, instead of kind of joining in other people's charities. I like to do stuff myself. I did a lot of cancer awareness as well, and we had a program that was really helping develop raise money for Parkinson's as well. There are tons of charities. That's the hard part, right? Like if you really get into charities, you end up being like so many different charities. We did
Do
the
you have a
Wounded Warriors, um, MS. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of charities out there.
Do you have a particular favorite moment or memory that you have of helping out during a particular cause?
Man, the Joshua House when I did that in Tampa, that was pretty. It's kind of hard. It's hard, right? It's difficult. These kids have been taken away from the home because of abuse, and you see these innocent little kids, and it's just like, who the heck would do this? There have been times when I went to the sick kids hospitals, and those were always, as a father, they're very tough to watch these children, and the children are putting on a brave face, man. The situation is not good, but some of them don't even know better because they've been in the hospital since they were born, and they just they smile and they tough it out. Yeah, it's tough when it's kids. It's just hard, right? Because they're so innocent.
Yeah, I mean, you just never know what somebody's going through, if somebody's struggling or if somebody's sick. I mean, it
Right.
kindness just goes a long way, and just makes somebody's day when you're lifting them up, when they've been through so much. I mean, you've definitely been involved with so many things. What is it about giving back that just gives you the most joy?
Yeah, I mean, it's just that, I've been super blessed in many ways. Like my parents are awesome and my neighborhood was awesome and being an athlete was great and just my whole WWE career and it's just great friends and I'm healthy and you just gotta, yeah, try and help. I'm a big advocate on helping people, adopt healthy lifestyle choices and just trying to be a mentor to some of my students. Because if you don't give back, what's the point of all the success? It's not to be selfish. So it's like if in a world of darkness, if you have a candle, you're not going to hide it, right? You're going to lift it up for everyone to see. So that's my philosophy.
Yeah, it's a definitely a good one to have. I mean, do you what kinds of things do you teach your students? Any words of wisdom
Yeah,
that
no, I teach everything. Like the pro wrestling part is just one piece of the pie, right? It's how to conduct yourself, um, how to think. For example, when I got eliminated in 1 second from the Royal Rumble, that could have been a moment where I would have been like, "Oh, this sucks! I'm getting eliminated so fast." But just to put a positive spin on it and create an opportunity out of it, and I turned it into a record-setting moment that's still talked about today. So perspective is everything. Being grateful is super important. Understanding that it's a long-term game, and if you are feeling frustrated that things aren't happening, that's normal because there should be some frustration because if you're hungry enough, you want things now, but you have to be you have to have mental fortitude and stick to the game plan and yeah. So I help with everything from diet and training to helping them with their gear, helping them with life advice, and it's like teaching them the actual pro wrestling part. That's just like one sliver of the pie.
Yeah, I know. It's just so many moving parts, so many things that go into uh, this thing that we have called life. And your daughter, Ariana Grace, is now wrestling in NXT. Uh, what made her decide to pursue the industry? Were you encouraging?
Yeah. So in the beginning, I knew she'd be on television in some capacity. She just had a great presence, and she's very articulate and pretty and smart, and she's like the whole package, right? And then when she finished her university degree, it's kind of hard for me to not to want to at least put it on the table because it has done so much for me and offered so much for me in terms of being able to provide a certain standard of living, but also to get to travel the world and become a fixture in the community. And it's just anyway, it's a job that's so fun, and it has so many trickle down benefits from just being on television that it would be silly for me not to offer her that. Also, plus it's so hard to make it, but if you have a foot in the door, your dad was in the WWE, might as well take advantage of that, and she did. It didn't get her the job, it just got her an opportunity, and she seized the moment, and she's working really hard, and she's every time I go down there, the coaches tell me how much they love her energy, and she's the hardest worker in the room, and they love having her there. So it's nice to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, I know you're very proud of her, and I'm sure she's going to do very big things in the future. Um, let's talk about your school, the Battle Arts Academy. What made you decide to start up your own school?
Yeah. So back in 2013 when I opened it, I knew my neck was the end was coming. So I wanted to have a business up and running when that time finally came. So we opened the gym in 2013, and I ended up having neck surgery in 2014, and I stayed with the company until 2016. So um, yeah, that was the idea. Life after wrestling, and you should, as you're also planning for a wrestling career, you should also be planning for a post-wrestling career as well. Because for some people, it's only a couple of years, or for some people, it's 7. For some, it's 20, and you don't know which one that's going to be. You might get injured, you might just get fired, or whatever. You might not connect with the audience the way they want. So there's a lot of reasons why your career might come to an end, but you got to be ready for that when it comes. And I trained at the original Battle Arts in Japan. So I kind of, from all my travels and all my experiences, I just kind of put everything. I took little things that I liked from here and there. I bit my tongue. And I made my own dream facility. So it was the kind of facility that if I walked in when I was like 16 years old, would I be like, oh my God, I love it here. I want to be here. And that's what I created. We have fitness programs, and we have kids classes and jiu-jitsu and wrestling and boxing. And then we have pro wrestling, and the building transforms into a venue. And we do a lot of things out of there. We definitely do a lot, from retail store and physio. And I mean, we do a lot. I didn't even realize the scale and scope of it because it's the first business I ever started. And because people would see it, they're like, oh, damn, like you really went for it. And I was like, I don't know, did I? It made sense on paper. And I believe there was a need for that in the neighborhood. And we're still standing strong today,
What's the most rewarding thing about having your own school and seeing your graduates go on and be successful?
Yeah, well, there's many different things, right? Like if you have success in pro wrestling, and success comes in many different shapes and forms. Like, you may travel the world. You because of wrestling went to Mexico, and because you went to Mexico, you met your wife, and because then you have kids. It all came from this. That could be that. A lot of times, people coming in these transformed their lives. They lost weight and they gained confidence. And because of that, they had a better social life and they had more success at the workplace, and all the trickle down effects from just being in better shape and having more confidence. So, and there's a lot of kids there, we've been there 12 years. Some kids started at like 11 years old and now they're 23 years old. And to watch them grow into from good kids to good young adults, that's really rewarding.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you get like a lot of people that come up to you years later and thank you for helping them. You're a part of that. You're a part of their journey.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ah, man, it's always good to pay it forward to the next generation.
I'm big on paying it forward. Yeah.
Santino, this has been wonderful getting the chance to speak with you. I want to say thank you so much for coming on to Wrestling with Heart. It means a lot to me and to my listeners and viewers that are watching this on YouTube. Where can people find more about you on social media and find out about your school?
Yeah, I am on Twitter. It's The Milan Miracle. And sorry. On Twitter, it's Milan Miracle. On Instagram, it's The Milan Miracle. And and then of course Battle Arts Academy. I think it's Battle Arts Academy BAA on Instagram. And if you want to become a professional wrestler, we can definitely help you with that. And if you want to become an MMA fighter, we can help you with that. And if you want to be an Olympic wrestler, we can help you with that. And there's or if you just want to get in shape, and be the best version of yourself, we can help you with that too.
All right. There you go. There you have it. Thanks again, Santino, and you're more than welcome to come back.
Oh, thank you so much.
All right. Take care.
This is Wrestling with Heart. I hope you found this podcast to be informative and entertaining. If you did, please hit the subscribe button and look out for the next edition.